Okay, this is Genesis chapter 15, the message. I'm kind of getting to this a little bit later than the other videos due to an important phone call. And I was outside, so I might seem like a little red, but bear with me. This is Genesis chapter 15, the message. After all these things, the word of God came to Abram in a vision. Don't be afraid, Abram. I'm your shield. Your reward will be grand. Abram said, God, Master, what use are your gifts as long as I'm childless and Eleazar of Damascus is going to inherit everything? Abram continued, See, you've given me no children, and now a mere house servant is going to get it all. Then God's message came. Don't worry, he won't be your heir. A son from your body will be your heir. Then he took him outside and said, Look at the sky. Count the stars. Can you do it? Count your descendants. You're going to have a big family, Abram. And he believed God. God declared him set right with God. God continued, I'm the same God who brought you from Ur to the Chaldees. God continued, I'm the same God who brought you from Ur of the Chaldees and gave you this land to own. Abram said, Master God, how am I to know this, that it will be all mine? God said, Bring me a heifer, a goat, a ram, each 3 years old, and a dove and a young pigeon. He brought all these animals to him, split them down the middle, and laid the halves opposite each other. But he didn't split the birds. Vultures swooped down on the carcasses, but Abram scared them off. As the sun went down, a deep sleep overcame Abram, and then a sense of dread, dark and heavy. God said to Abram, Know this, your descendants will live as outsiders in a land not theirs. They'll be enslaved and beaten down for 400 years. Then I'll punish their slave masters. Your offspring will march out of there loaded with plunder. But not you. You'll have a long and full life and die a good and peaceful death. Not until the 4th generation will your descendants return here. Sin is still thriving business among the Amorites. When the sun was down and it was dark, a smoking fire pot and flaming torch moved between the split carcasses. That's when God made a covenant with Abram. I'm giving this land to your children from the Nile River in Egypt to the river Euphrates in Assyria, the country of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Kadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, Rephaim, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. I'm sorry, I'm so terrible at these names sometimes. But I'm just going to do a really quick commentary for this one. It seems like God and Abram are abiding in each other. When he has doubts, already in the first verse, God is telling him not to be afraid, and he's his shield, and he's got really good things coming for his future. And even when Abram is questioning that, he's been told already, but he's still questioning it because, he doesn't see it in his life right now. And I like the fact that he's able to talk with God Even when it comes to his concerns and his doubts, he's able to go, well, you're saying this, but I don't see any of this happening. It's almost the opposite of what you're saying. And it's just really interesting that he does that, because he's in a relationship with his God, where he's able to confide in him even when he's doubting and he's not sure, and he's human, but he's able to be human with God. I don't think the walk with God is meant for us to be this perfect thing that does everything right. And I love this part kind of shows that example, that it's normal for you to not be sure, but the thing is, you just don't leave God. You got to stay with him so that he can actually show you what he means, because he will. So I also like the fact that it does look the opposite of what God says, but God said it, so it doesn't even matter what it looks like. And I find often in these situations that when he is giving you promises, it usually doesn't seem like anything like what he says at all. It just doesn't, which is like the test of your faith and patience. You got to keep believing and walking with God anyway, and just let it play out how it's going to play out. But just do your part, walking in his will, believing in him, walking the narrow path, staying out of sin as best as you can, staying out of evil, staying out of wickedness, staying out of bad behavior, just really negative behaviors and things. Even if people try to trigger it in you, don't let them, just let them be negative and just continue on, how that you're supposed to be doing, so that you can get to that place that God's talking about. It doesn't always have to take a long time like how it's taken here, but there are times in people's lives where it does take a while for this stuff to play itself out, and you are supposed to be, as best as you can with your whole heart, walking that path in expectation. Not straying off, putting matters into your own hands like Abram did a couple of chapters ago. He's learned from that. Even though he's doubting, he's, instead of, just going off and doing whatever he wanted, he's talking to God about it, his concerns. And God's answering him. He says in verse 4, God's message came, don't worry. He won't be your heir. They're talking about Eleazar of Damascus, which is not Abram's heir. It's not his family. It's just a guy that's in this camp, I was born in his camp. And God's saying at verse 4, don't worry. He won't be your heir. A son from your body will be your heir. He's saying, don't worry. I know you're old. I know all this stuff isn't making any sense right now. And that's often life. It's it doesn't make any sense. A lot of this stuff is just so bizarre and weird, and things aren't what they seem. And that doesn't just include the bad things, but the good things too. Just hold on to God's promises, no matter what it looks like. And that takes time sometimes. I mean, for Abram, he's believing him. Verse 6, and he believed God. So, you just got to believe in him that he can do anything. Sometimes I find myself in that realm of life where I'm just it just doesn't seem like things are changing or budging, but God said he doesn't mean any harm towards you. He wants to give you hope in a future, and he's right. The negative things, it might be from your own doing, might be from the people around you, might be a spiritual attack because you're on the right track. There's a lot of reasons for any of that stuff. But the main thing stands, you need to just be with God, walk with God, believe in God, believe his promises, that it's going to come to pass, and act accordingly. Act as if it has already happened. Act as if it is happening. Act on your best behavior, not just because you want the blessing, but you know that it's just the right thing to do. Let the process mold you into a better person. And there will be things and obstacles and people that will try to change that about you. They're going to try to challenge that. That's their problem. You don't have to be that. So I'm telling you right now from living proof, and I'm really ready to tell you guys about this testimony that I've got. It's a huge one, and I might have to make it into sections or something, because I know that this testimony a part of the reason why I went through the things I did was so that other people can see and know about God and be able to have the confidence to trust him, but also just for people to see that there's just so much more than whatever it is that you went through that was a hardship or hardships. So many people are going through multiple things. And that's, I think, a big reason why this testimony that I have is so, it's going to be so important for somebody, for sure. I think it's going to be important for multiple people. Because the story that I just lived over the last few years of my life just seemed absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. It was 100% a spiritual attack, and Satan was using anybody he could to show me like hate, even for nothing, for the tiniest little insignificant things. But it's also, I learned that when Satan's using people for that stuff, it usually means that these people have issues of their own that they have not resolved within themselves, and that makes them susceptible to be used for that stuff. So it's not just, he's just picking randoms. He's picking people that have a lot of problems, a lot of sin in their life, and they're susceptible to be used for whatever negative event that is, attempted. An attempt perpetuation, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I just really like the fact that he is walking with God and he's trusting God. Even when he doubts or he's questioning, he brings those things to God. He doesn't just go off and just do things. At least not here. He's not. So I have a lot of respect for Abram because he's a man of God. And he really wanted to know, he was just really asking, like, how can I know all this? How do you... He just really wants the confirmation, even though it isn't there and God's saying it. But it doesn't, he's human. He still wants the confirmation. So God has this strange situation here where it says at verse 9, God said, bring me a heifer, a goat, a ram, each 3 years old, and a dove and a young pigeon. And he does that. He slices them in half and stuff. It kind of reminds me of a sacrifice of sorts, but this is some kind of arrangement that is... seem to create this dream, this deep dream that he has later on in that night, that evening. And the dream that he has is like a prediction for his lineage. Like they're going to be enslaved. They're going to go through some stuff for sure. And God's going to deliver them. God's going to bless those who bless them. And he's going to curse those who curse. It just as he said. Just as he said, it's going to come to pass. But he's letting Abram know, like, it's not going to be easy for your offspring. You're going to have a lot of them, more than the stars you can count, But there's going to be some trials for these guys. A lot of things going on with these guys, which is true. They do. And he also assures him that you're going to be fine, though. You're not going to see any of that, which is also true. He says he's going to live a good, full life and die, warm in his bed, basically, like nice, cool little life. And we've seen how other people walked with God, like Noah, and literally Adam and Eve literally walked with him in the garden. Abel was also like, God was pleased with him. There's just some chosen guys in here, but Abram specifically, his relationship with him outside of the garden, just his relationship with him in this fallen world, it's pretty miraculous. I don't think I've ever seen anybody quite like or explain like him so far in this Bible. There are others who were, like Enoch, who was just not, and taken. It says he walked with the Lord. And he walked with him so well. He and God were in such great terms that he didn't even die. He was just taken after 365 years of living. And this was during the time that there were millennial lifetimes where people were living like 950 or whatever years. He didn't even let him go that long. He gave him a good 365 and then took him. So, I don't know. Abram's definitely standing out. He doesn't seem like he's as... He doesn't seem like he's as... He's not quite on like Enoch's level. But he's on some level of his own in his relationship. Even that just makes me think like we each all have our own individual relationships with God. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say about this. Those animals that he'd sliced in half with the dove and the pigeon. Something about that triggered this dream that he had later on that night. Almost like a vision that he had. I'm not really sure of the significance of those particular animals and why. Why did they need to be 3 years old each? There's just a lot of that where I'm questioning in my mind. I'm probably going to research after this that I want to know. If you have any idea or suggestions or just any statements to say about any of this, please do share it. I'm so interested. I just know like there's no end to reading these chapters. Each time that you read it, especially if you read it with others, there's always something that someone else can point out that stood out that maybe you never even noticed. And even if you're reading it by yourself, I find that for me, I still find so much that's new or that brings question that I need to research and understand more. And we're living in the age of technology, so that's a possible thing. You can just Google and find some really interesting prospects as to why something is here written. Anyway, that's about it for today. For those of you guys who celebrate the Shabbat Shalom, because it's just a few hours away, and I just pray that you have a really good one. Shalom Aleichem, and I just pray that God blesses you, and just a hedge of protection over you, and that you let Him guide you, and whatever He has for you, that you're able to receive it, that you're able to grow in Him and His Word, and that you, for those who are reading with me, I just pray that you continue to read, and whether it's your first run or not through the Bible, I just pray that you are getting something out of it that is of God and just really helpful for your life and how you live it. Till next time, we're going to read chapter 16 on Sunday, I think. So, until then, God bless you, and I love you. Bye.